Sundays have always been sacred to me. It gives me a chance to spend time with my family, with my friends, to focus on my faith. And honestly, We Rest on Sundays is a platform that I've created to help you navigate the complexities of the world. I want to spend time having open, honest dialogue with mentors, friends and family, and individuals that I truly believe are exceptional. We're going to focus on love, career, marriage, parenting, and everything in between. And the primary goal here is for us to become the better versions of ourselves every single day. I want to thank you for tuning in. I'll see you on Sunday. All right, we're good. You good?
Great.
Stu, I appreciate you being here, bro.
Man,
thanks again, man. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, man.
2025, we're off to a good start. And you're my first interview of this year.
Yes. Brother, I'm honored, man.
Super excited, bro. And just real quick, just originally from Ghana, Morehouse graduate. You led an exceptional technology career, working for companies like Verizon, Turner, Hulu, Twitter, and now Philo as well. Recently married.
Yes.
Super excited
7
about
months.
that. Yeah, man. 7 months in. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you, brother.
Also expecting your first child.
Yes.
Which is super exciting.
Very excited about that.
And I'm sure challenging and making you think through a lot of things. And then also you've personally navigated through some really stark challenges, losing both of your parents and still being in your mid-30s right now, and really just figuring out coming into your own parenting style and being married for the first time. You're just a man that I'm captivated by, and somebody that I've always been inspired by and looked up to. So I'm really, really grateful to have your time and to sit down and learn more about Stu and just your journey as well. So
likewise, man. Likewise. I always get squeamish when people give me all these like compliments. I'm always like, it feels like a lot. But it's one of those things, and we've talked about this a million times, where it's like you have to do it. You have to do it. You can't let your circumstance limit you in any way. This happened for a reason.
You got it, man. So let's jump in, man. So growing up, you were originally from Ghana.
So I was born in Brooklyn.
Okay, born in Brooklyn.
Born in Brooklyn.
Okay.
My parents came through Nigeria to get to the States.
Okay.
My grandfather was the first person in our family to be in the States.
Got it.
And so like my house growing up was like, if you moved to the United States, it was the house to get your start. Like my Uncle Kofi, who lives in Conyers here in Georgia. He lived in the basement. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
My mom and dad, they lived in an apartment because they owned the building that I grew up in.
Got it.
So they were the landlords.
Got it. In Brooklyn.
In Brooklyn. It's still there. We still own it. It's still in the family.
Wow.
And that was, you get a strong sense of community.
Yeah.
We had one of those apartments that had 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, and at any one point there's 6 to 8 people in this in this space, in this apartment. But so I have a strong sense of community because of it. Yeah. But they came here like every person from around the world that wants to come here and make a better life for future generations. And so for me, it's like it's a lot of realizing their dream. Yeah. And making sure that all of the things they went through didn't go to waste, or it wasn't for naught.
Yeah. So tell me, can you, if you don't mind, just sharing more about, again, I think that me as all I know is being here in America, and that's my family's lineage. I mean, you go down generations. Like, it's definitely rooted in Africa, but your parents actually made the journey, and it sounds like kicked it off for your family to really, what I would see it as like provide additional opportunities for more of your family.
That's a good way to
So
say it.
can you explain more of like, how did that impact you and like your decision making, the way that you looked at your career, the way that you looked at this opportunity, even like advancing yourself to be able to go to college?
It felt like a responsibility. Like it felt like we can say gratitude and feel gratitude, but like the only way to thank them is to succeed. The only way to say thank you appropriately would be to advance, pardon the sports, analogy. I hate sports analogies, but this is the first thing that came to my head. Is like advance the ball down the field, right? So, for me, it felt like that was what the responsibility was. And it was never a question of whether you're going to school. Like that was instilled at a very young age, right? Let me tell you something about West Africans. Number one, nobody loves Jesus more than West Africans. That's number one. And number two, education is always top priority, regardless. Even if like you just have to find a way. And I think because it's so difficult to come to this country, and it was so difficult, it's going to be increasingly more difficult to come here. You've seen them make a way. You know what I mean? I think that's why I'm not afraid of fatherhood. I've seen people do so much with so much less that I'm like, you know, oh, we're going to be fine. Like it's going to be straight.
Yeah.
It's like the only measuring stick is like, how good can we be at this?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And yeah, it's the way I show gratitude for everything that they've been through, for coming here, for working double shifts, triple shifts, make sure we had sneakers, make sure I had everything I needed to succeed. Yeah, I mean, they tried to take the worry off the table.
Yeah.
And your only job was to go to school and excel at that. Obviously that would change later in life, but I'm sure we'll talk about that in the questioning. So
yeah. Well, let's jump in a little bit more because for me, I think you know, like, you know, my story and, you know, I come from adversities and, you know, dealing with the challenges of my parents, but my parents are still here.
Yeah.
Like they're alive and no matter their shortcomings or situation that we may get in, I still have that opportunity to get in those situations with them. And I know that you lost your parents. So can you just share more about, you know, like I see you as a man getting ready. I know what you're about to step into because I myself have kids.
Yes.
So you not only got married 7 months ago, you're also expecting your first child, your baby boy that's coming.
Yeah.
And you're navigating these new waters in absence of parents. So can you just share more about just like your mindset, that journey, the thinking, you know, and then some of like the foundational aspects that your parents really instilled in your personal values to be the man that you are today?
Yeah. So, you know, for me, like, I think from the outside looking in, it feels so daunting because, you know, especially for young black men and little black boys, your mom is your first interaction of unconditional love, or it's supposed to be, right? And to lose that, it almost feels like you're naked, like you don't have that like protector that through thick and thin, they're just there to correct you, to love on you, to just be there, right? So I think for me, luckily, I had a lot of community. So my mom was sick for most of my life. I could remember on one hand, like maybe 5 instances where she didn't look as sick, but like she had adversity my whole life. She passed at 38 years old. I'm gonna be 38 in 3 weeks. So you start to think about your mortality on some level when that's kind of the thing. You're like, dang, mom passed at 38. Like I'm about to be that, and I'm about to be a father. So, you know, I think that level of perseverance, seeing her go through what she went through, but try to like shroud me from it, kind of shield me from the realities of that, is really special and a testament to her ability to overcome. And my mom was I think she knew like her time was going to be shorter. So she really tried to instill a bunch of things. I mean, she passed when I was 12. So it was like, you know, find a good woman, get married. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Never be a follower. Always be a leader. You know, this country has many opportunities. Use this country. Like, use it. Use the opportunities that are in front of you to get ahead, to get better, to advance our family. So, you know, at 12, you're like, what the hell are you talking about? Yeah. But it's so interesting that all these years later, all of those kind of principles and those things that she used to say, she'd be like, yo, mom, what are you talking about? They're like, they'll pop up and I'll just start laughing. Like, dang, how'd you know? You know what I mean? Yeah. So, you know, I had, you know, it was a tough, I'm not going to sit here and tell you it was all roses. It was tough because we were like this. Me and my mom were tight. You know, my dad, my mother and my father were never married. And my dad was older than my mom when they had me. I think my mom had me when she was 26. So, so that was difficult because, you know, when they split, there was no obligation to work on the relationship. So, you know, at the time, you know, my mom lived in the Bronx and my father lived in Queens. And this is like this at this point I'm like 8, 9, 10.
Yeah.
And I would share time with them.
Yeah.
But I was living with my grandparents.
Got it.
Like the whole time.
Got it.
So, and my mom was one of those like in-house living care nurses, right? So she would do that weeks at a time, and I'd get time with her on the weekends. And that was hard.
Yeah.
But it also meant that we got tight.
Yeah.
And so when I lost her, it was like, what am I gonna do?
Yeah.
Thankfully, it's weird. Other moms can sense when you lost your mom.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's something special that they got that I can't even begin to explain, but they want to look out for you. Especially when they see you were raised the right way, however you want to quantify what that means. Because I think it means different things in different cultures. But they wanted to help. They wanted to look out. A lot of our Morehouse brothers and their parents, a lot of our Spelman sisters and their parents looked out. So yeah, education was always going to be a thing. I always felt a level of community, which was helpful because it's easy to feel alone when you lose your maternal figure. And that was tough. It ended up being a part of my, my relationships. And it always kind of came up because at a certain point, around like 7 or 8, my dad just disappeared. He just dropped all contact. And it was just my grandparents and my mom. And I always say that I suffered 2 abandonments, voluntary and involuntary, right? Because when she passed and then when he just left. So it was tough, man. It really was. And I would tell you this is a kind of the thing I live by. Certain things need to happen in your life for you to be who you're destined to be. They just have to. Because what I'm telling you right now, someone has a version of this story that looks a little different. And they're trying to figure out why it's happening. And it's like, in order for you to be who you're supposed to be to your family, to your friends, to your career, that you have to go through that. So you can pass that on. You can be the best version of yourself.
It's funny, Stu, you saying that, because you and I have had many conversations revolving around that topic,
no doubt.
Right? Where it's like, boy, have we faced these challenges and these adversities, and while you're in those seasons and in those moments, you're questioning God. Like you are, right? Like
I had beef with God for a minute. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like I was really like, what's good? Like what have I done? Why am I going through all of this? I'm going to school. I'm getting great grades. I'm playing sports. People enjoy my company. I care. I'm always striving. I care. I'm not mean. Why am I going through this at such a young age? Like, I get going through it. But dang, like, I'm 12. Like, we couldn't have waited till I was 18. You know what I mean? Like, so yeah, if God was a person, we would have came to blows. I would have put my paws on him. For real. I'm dead serious. It took years for me to, like, kind of bolster up my relationship with God again. It really did. I really questioned everything. And that was part of the rough times. That was like 12 to like 25. Whereas like I'm here because I'm supposed to be, but I ain't really here. And I'm not really here. And that was difficult.
How did you get over that hurdle, right? Like the anxiety, the frustration, the anger that you had, not just with God, but like, honestly, like with the world as well. Like you can see other people and your peers in situations, and you're like, oh, it'd be great for my parents to travel in and be able to have a Coca-Cola sitting with them at a nice restaurant. And it's like, but that's just not my reality.
They take it for granted. I think people who have their parents, like I lost both my parents before I was 32 years old. They won't get to sit with their grandchild. And I think for me, after everything I've been through, stuff is always working out for me, bro. And because it always works out, and I always feel blessed and like highly favored, man, I can't be mad. Because even though this thing happened at a young age, almost everything after was pretty beautiful. You know what I'm saying? My community, my now wife, my now son, my friendships, my brotherhoods, my sisterhoods. All of that is like, has made me who I am. So I can't be mad at it because whatever that plan was I couldn't see, man, it's pretty sweet now on this side. I would tell you, you got to go through the BS to get to the good stuff. But boy, I mean, I really was. I think for me, I tell my wife this all the time. Like, even in those instances where things are bad, there's nothing in my history to show that it's going to be bad for long.
Yeah.
And I just got to wait it out.
This too shall pass.
This too shall pass. Truly.
Man, like, truly. I say that to myself all the time.
Yeah.
So I try not to get worked up or anxious. Whatever. I'm like, I've been in darker moments, darker places, and I'm past that. So this too shall pass. And the more that I say that to myself, the more that I'm able to remind myself, the better off that I ever really, am in reality. But so we met through Morehouse. So let's talk about Morehouse, man, and talk about just Morehouse, that journey, and one, how you landed there. Two, like what it has, the impact that it has had on your life and your career.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I didn't know what Morehouse was. Yeah. So like, again, super African household, you know what I'm saying? Like Brooklyn, then Maryland. And, I had no idea. Someone had to tell me about it for me to go research it and be like, oh, okay, this is cool. But the defining moment for me was I had a assistant principal in high school who was also a mother, but like who loved me. Like loved me. Like if I need to get away from class, I'm in her office helping her do stuff. I think everybody, for the most part, had that one teacher or administrator that they can kind of hide out and really have an adult relationship with, where it was like I could just shoot you straight and tell you what I'm thinking, and there's no judgment. There's no you might try to steer me towards a direction, but you weren't trying to like change my school of thought or try to change who I was. Yeah. And around that time, Sterling Hudson, who was the dean of admissions at Morehouse, his brother was an administrator at a rival high school, Springbrook High School in Silver Spring, Maryland. Okay. And so he would take a trip to recruit and give out scholarships. So you do this interview and you get a scholarship. So 3 or 4 guys from my high school got a scholarship, right? And at the time, I was undecided. So I was applying to University of Maryland. At the time, I was a really great track athlete. And so I was coveted. Teams were trying to figure it out. You can walk on. We've seen your tape. We think you're good. But I wasn't decided on where I was going. So, she was facilitating those conversations. She was like, look, I can't in good faith put you in a room with these people because you're undecided. And that might take away from a person who absolutely knows they want to go to Morehouse, which I was like, fair, that makes sense. Yeah. And ultimately she was like, while I can't do that, I want you to take a look at this school because you can go to University of Maryland, you can go to Georgetown, you got the grades, you got the athletics, you're always involved, but this place is going to give you something special that I think is going to solidify your identity of who you are going out into a very, very tough world. Let's just be honest. So I took a look, got fascinated, applied. I wasn't supposed to go to Morehouse, bro. Had the grades, ain't have no money. Yeah. So it was like, I promise you, man, that's what I keep telling you. Things are always working out. I had no business going to Morehouse. Had the grades, like I said, but didn't have the money. But I was like, okay, things are truly always working out for me. This is going to be another instance. And the money just came. I got hooked up with John Henry, who was the president of the DC alumni chapter for Morehouse. Okay. Interviewed with him. Just so happens that his best friend was James Stotts. Wow. Who was the head of financial aid. Dean Stotts. My guy. Yeah. Height. And, a couple of the moms in the neighborhood from the high school were like, hey, students going to school doesn't necessarily have a scholarship. Whatever you could chip in. I still got this spreadsheet in my Gmail to this day of all the people that gave money to make sure that a young brother could go to school and change his life, which is exactly what happened. So that's how I ended up at Morehouse, bro. It was not a guaranteed thing. I got in and had no money. So worked out, got in, stayed in Graves Hall, and a lot of my high school buddies were there, so I didn't feel like a fish out of water. I still had people I could talk to. Obviously, if you know anything about the AUC, you're gonna branch out. Yeah. So that's how we got there. It almost didn't happen.
It's
several times. I done got my classes dropped a million times.
Man,
come on, man. You know that struggle, bro. It's tough.
it's so. Oh, you took me back because
camping out in that joint.
dude. Because similar to you, I got in, but I did not have any money.
Yeah.
There's nobody to even sign for money for FAFSA for like.
I was filling all of that out.
I had to fill it all out, but I had no established credit. So like literally
nothing.
That summer after I graduated high school, every single week, my sister and I would go to Dean Stott's office every single week like clockwork. Wait to see him. And then we would pitch and tell him, hey, if you give my little brother a shot, I promise you, he won't waste this opportunity.
I know it.
Never regret it.
No doubt.
And I think about that to this day all the time. I see this man, I hug him. I wrote him a handwritten letter a couple of years ago where I'm like, you have no idea the impact that you've had not only on my life, so many guys' lives that he's just blessed with financial scholarships in the final hour for them to be able to start and finish at Morehouse. I knew if I just get this money and I'm able to get in these classes.
It's going crazy.
I got the rest.
It's over with.
Have the rest. So to hear us have that synergy and that connection as well, because that dude, I mean.
Saved lives.
Oh, has saved lives and families. And I think that's the beauty and the power of an HBCU. Is like, that's the real sense of community where he just was like listening to us week over week over week. He probably made his decision after his second time of meeting us and they're like, oh, these are serious people. But he's like, I'm going to make them sweat a little bit. And he blessed me, man. And
everybody got that story. No one had money from Morehouse. Like, just think about that. How many people do you know that was in your same camped out right next to you in Gloucester Hall? I was one of them. I know there's 5, 10 other people.
Do you know the crazy, this is, and not to get off track, but like, it takes me back because I remember the level of anxiety that I felt sitting in that hallway.
I'm feeling it now.
Because right now,
for real, like right now, I'm feeling it now.
Because everybody else is trying to do the same thing. And you're like, but I need, I'm not going to waste it. I'm not going to waste it.
But I'm different than them. I'm supposed to be here.
And you're in a hallway filled with black families. And you're like, everybody here is broke trying to figure it out.
And it's their parents with them too. It was just me. I was like, dang, yo, I hope this works out. I ain't trying to go back to Maryland. I'll tell you right now.
Oh, it's not an option.
If I go back, I don't know if I'm coming back.
It's not.
How many brothers do you know you went to school with? They was in class one day, or they finished a semester. You came back. Oh, where's so-and-so at? Couldn't find the bread, dog. You've heard it a million times.
A lot.
A lot.
Man,
I don't take it for granted.
Yeah, same.
I don't take graduating from Morehouse for granted.
Yeah, you can't. You can't. You've been able to take Morehouse and like really use it, not just like Morehouse, but the networking. The I think the relationships you've been able to build and cultivate, and you've transformed that into an exceptional career in technology. Can you just share more about like how you've been able to do that? You've worked for startups, you've gotten equity at some of these companies, like a plethora of things. And I think what's even more impressive about you, Stu, is like, dude, you lost your mom and your best friend when you were 12, right? Your dad was gone. He left you out of your life. So you're figuring out how to do all of this stuff pretty much by yourself. So like, how did you do it? And what advice do you have to those that are trying to have strong careers in technology or corporate America just in general?
Man, some assembly is required, man. I tell people this. I learned how to be a man by pulling quality things from different, like, older men, including, like, TV fathers. You know what I mean? Like, it sounds silly, but it's like, the one thing about Uncle Phil was he gonna hold you accountable. So as a man, I gotta hold myself accountable. Because I don't have that person to do that. You know, once your parents go, you're like, all right, well, it's just me, and you ain't trying to hear nothing from other people. So I think that for me has been a saving grace. But like you talked about the career thing, things just work out for me. I wish I had this poignant diatribe that I could bestow upon you, but be yourself and believe it's gonna happen. My first job in media. Okay, let's go back to 2009. I had 2 offers at 2 places.
This year you're coming out of college.
It's the year I'm coming out of college. The financial crisis. We hype. Obama is in office. We like, okay, yes we can, right? So those 2 offers get rescinded. Eli Lilly and NCR. I'm like, well, what am I gonna do? So I went back to school. I moved back to New York, and I went to Parsons for a year. I was like, oh, I'm just gonna do fashion marketing. I did marketing undergrad. How hard could it be? Did it and was like, ooh, I don't like this. I put fashion and music in the same place. You're gonna do a lot of free work before you start seeing a check. And I was just like, and this is no shade to anybody else. Please don't DM me about anything. I'm gonna give you quality work, but it's not gonna be for free.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna approach this differently, and I can't do it for free because I live in New York now.
Yeah.
So a buddy of mine, a Morehouse brother of mine, just to bring it back full circle, Evan Wadifar from the Bronx, was working at Turner Broadcasting. He was like, yeah, there's this role, man. I think you'd be great at it. Because in high school, I worked at Sears. So I sold consumer electronics. I've always had a job. I've always had a job. It was either I was sweeping hair at my uncle's barbershop, I was selling Cutco knives. I've always had a job. Just had to. Because again, it's just me.
Yeah.
So there was no, here you go, little $50 bill joint, you know what I'm saying, hold it down. No, that's not how my life was. So for me, it was like, if I was going to do anything, it had to come from me.
Yeah.
So Evan hits me up. He's like, hey, there's this job. I think you should interview for it. At the time, I was working for Verizon. I was in their leadership development program.
Okay.
And I wasn't loving that either.
Okay.
Because when I was here at Morehouse, I worked at the AT&T in Camp Creek.
Okay.
That's how I was paying for books and rent and stuff like that. So he referred me for that role. I went. I thought I crushed the role. Or the interview. I didn't hear anything back for like 10 months.
Whoa.
So, and this is a funny story because it comes back full circle. So I get a call in October of 2010, and it's the hiring manager, and she's like, we want to hire you. I'm hyped, right? Because this is a job I know I can do well. Yeah. And I've always prided myself on working at companies that I'm familiar with or I've been a consumer of, because one, I'll be more passionate, and two, I got some ideas.
Yeah.
And I know Turner. When Cartoon Network came out, I was on it. Yeah. Right. So I get the branding. I know what's going on. I get the sports portfolio, all of that. So I was really happy to get this job. Now looking back, I was like, dang, 40 grand in New York. I made something stretch, man. So
everything stretch.
Everything.
Man.
Oh man. So yeah, I got that job, and like really it was off to the races. The hiring manager, who's now like my really close friend, like I know her family, her husband, her kids. She was like, you did so well. We were going to hire you earlier, but I told them that I wanted to hire you. And that's why it took a minute to hit you.
Wow.
Little would I know that was the best thing that ever happened, because the way that she like mothered me and like brought me into the game the right way, made sure my email and communication skills were great. Man, I wish I could show you my email. She showed me how to like do my folders, you know, the CYA folder and all of that. She taught me all of that. And that was such a blessing. I had to wait for it. But like I said, things always working out. Things always work out for me. And then from there, I ended up going to Hulu. And that was just because, that was just a gut feeling. I was like, nobody really watches TV on time anymore. So I want to try to be ahead of be where I need to be. When Hulu ended up being a massive success. This was back when they didn't have original program. It was just The Office and Seinfeld reruns that we were selling ads on. Learned a lot about tech. That was my first tech company. We had a CTO. That's when I say you're a tech company. Yeah. So I was able to marry my love for tech, I was the person that fidgeted a lot. I built my house computer in Maryland. We didn't have money to go. So I went to, remember when we were kids, they had those like computer, like show and sales? Yeah. When to buy all the components and build a computer. So I love tech innately. And so to be in it, to make money from it, to learn from it, that was my dream. Yeah. It's still my dream. Still happy to be on the cutting edge of tech. So then was Hulu, then it was Twitter. When I left Morehouse in May of 2009 is when I joined Twitter. And I was hooked. So you couldn't tell me this was not going to be the thing. Yeah. I didn't at that time, I was starting to fall out of love with Facebook. Why am I really on here? Yeah. But that was it, man. Sports. I love soccer. I love sports. I love all of that. In this realm, I get to talk to other people that love the same things I do. Yeah. That part was cool, man. And that's the place I worked the longest. I really loved that environment. I really loved that place. And it took some, and I've experienced a lot of loss, but this one kind of punched me in the stomach because it was like, dang, I don't work here no more.
Yeah.
And when you're there for almost 10 years, some of your identity is tied up in it.
Yeah.
You care that much.
Yeah, yeah.
And so for it to end unceremoniously and not on my own terms, I had to come to thank my wife, who was not my wife at that time, but my fiance was like, look, we're going to be fine.
Yeah.
You are more than this place. But it took some remember who you are, Basa Simba type, conversations to figure that out. But yeah, you talked about advice. Talk to everybody, bro. I'm the person, and I've always been this way. My mom used to say this when I was a kid. I was a kid that used to go to the playground, and when I left, everybody was my friend. Always had that. My superpower is relationships with people. That's it. It's gotten me everywhere. If I don't know you, and you come around, I'm gonna chop it up with you. I'm gonna see what's going on. That's just my innate, call it nervousness, but I rather remove it. It's almost like anything I've ever been nervous for, if I've been prepared for it, I'm not nervous anymore. And so if I'm prepared for you and I know you, I'm not nervous anymore. And so that's how I was able to kind of climb the ladder, get promotions within the company, which is often the hardest thing to do because they know what you're getting paid and they know your work intimately. So I would just say talk to everybody. And not necessarily those networking. I mean, that's fine, but there's so much more follow through there. And don't be afraid to cold outreach people. Hey, people love to talk about themselves, period, everybody. So if you say, hey, I would love to pick your brain about this thing, thinking about going into tech, people have done it to me. And I've always made time for it because it's rewarding, but you don't know where that person's gonna end up. That person ends up being a CEO of Pepsi or Coke, and you can say you had a little bit of a hand in that journey. What if my son's looking for an internship? It all comes back full circle, man. And that manager I had at Turner, when she was going into tech, she ended up getting a job at TikTok because I helped her prepare for the interview. That's how it goes. That's what community is about. Always. And it's always it happens to me all the time.
It's so crazy, Stu, because at first you said a few times, you were like, things just work out for me. Things just work out for me. And I'm like, yeah, but you know what I'm saying?
You're always a skeptical guy. I'm like, he's like, I want to get the science.
Yeah. Because the but is relationships. Like that is your superpower.
No doubt.
And that's what sets you apart, right? And I think that for me, you hit on so many great points right there because even right now, it's like people slide into my LinkedIn. Hey, can I have some? And I give it to the people when I have it. And the people that are the hungriest, in reality, I have this mentee right now.
People that you see yourself in.
Dude.
Yeah, I know.
I have this mentee. I have two mentees right now that I actually allocate a lot of time to right now. One is this younger black kid that went to Morehouse, and he's excellent. He's like, not only do I see myself, I'm like, dude, you are 10x better than
you're ahead of your
small
time.
big. I'm like, you are special.
They have more resources, but
Exactly. But he's great. And the second is a white kid that's a student at SMU right now.
Oh, awesome. Great school.
His dad is a big time attorney here in Atlanta. So I'm like, you already have all the stuff. Like, you don't need me. But when I tell you how hungry and dedicated he is and responsive to reaching out and asking for time and being prepared with the right questions and real quick with bullet points, I'm like, dude, you're going to be fine in your career because you understand relationships right now. Like today at 18, 19 years old, you understand relationships. And for me, one of the best executives that I've ever spent time with that I'm actually still working for now. He's a ex-basketball player at Georgia Tech, Paul Trotty. I don't think you mind me saying his name, but he's just he said to me a couple of years ago when I first came in, to the company, he goes, I don't need you to be an expert in supply chain and international, anything I'm working on. That's not what he's like. I need to know that you're hungry and you actually want to learn and come here prepared. I can teach you. Supply chain, international, blah, blah, blah. And when that pivoted my mindset where I was like, because I was like trying to overanalyze all the work, and
Always.
and he's like, build relationships.
Yeah.
Like, you're smart. You'll figure this out. Help you figure it out. But build relationships. And I think, again, the point of you bringing that up is just, it's very powerful, because I feel like that's a piece that a lot of people can miss. And they're like, well, why do things work out for you? Or why? It's like, because I care about people, and I care about relationships, and I care to really deeply and immensely know somebody.
Yeah.
And when you know somebody and you build something of value with them, they'll do anything and everything for you. You know, like, it's very simple. So it's good that you
that's okay. You gave me a better response now. That's good. Yeah, man. I mean, that's true. I tell my wife this all the time. I say, be a good person. The world is so small. Be a good person. The job that I'm in right now, I got the look for the role, or was contacted about the role, because the former head of finance at Twitter is not the CFO of the company.
Yeah.
So that at least gets me to speak to somebody. And if I speak to you, it's a wrap.
Yep.
It's
I
done.
got it.
It's done. I promise you. Always. Because I'm in my comfort zone talking to people. I could do this for the rest of my life and be fine. Truly. It's my favorite thing to do. I love to hear people's stories. I love to hear about people's backgrounds.
Yeah.
And I think people are impressed by what I retain.
Yeah.
Because when I bring it up again, they're like, dang, you were really listening. Yeah. That's what this is about. So,
you got it. I appreciate you sharing that, man. So let's talk a little bit now just about your parenting journey. So you and your wife are expecting your first child.
Yes.
So again, congratulations on that, man. I think it's amazing. But can you talk to me a little bit more about what are some of the emotions that you have right now that are most prominent into like really getting prepared to step into fatherhood?
Man, I think I'm excited, but I have some anxiety there. I'm anxious, but I'm also confident that it'll work out.
Yeah.
And I think community is the most important thing in the world, man. And I feel more prepared because I have the friend group that I have at the right point in time in my life. You know, I don't have a lot of single friends.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I have single lady friends. You got any single friends? And my response is the same the whole time. All my friends are married with kids.
Yeah.
So, which, you know, it's not a braggadocious thing, but it's a barometer for where I'm supposed to be in my life. Because I can't have a bunch of single friends. I have to have married friends that I can seek advice and counsel from, that have children to do the same those things where I get to be better because of the mistakes they've made or the things that have worked in their situation. So, you know, I'm excited. I'm anxious because the world is what the world is.
Yeah.
But I think I'm going to keep reminding myself to control what I can control.
Yeah.
And that is to create this wonderful, you know, global citizen that understands and is grateful for all the opportunities, that knows it doesn't come easy, and that knows that he's loved and supported. And we got you.
Yeah. It's really good, Stu. And like, for you, man, it's like you're really, really good, not at just a relationships, but like reading the room as well.
Thank you.
And that's so much of parenting. Yeah. And it's like, it's a skill where it's like,
it's a life skill, bro.
Yes. But it's the same when you have these little ones that are in your house and they have personalities, opinions, perspectives, like, especially as they get older. My 5-year-old daughter right now, she's 5 going on 52. And I'm like,
how did we get here? You've been here before. That's what it is.
You've been here before. And I'm reading the room with her. You know, like I'm picking up, well, where's food? A leader.
She's a leader.
She is dominant. She's a leader. She's not a follower. And she will choose her path. Regardless of what path you want her to go down, she's going to choose her path. And for me, it's only by me observing her for the past 5 years and understanding her and reading the room where I can speak with her without needing to actually be a dad. Don't do that.
Communicate.
Communicate. Like, hey, I don't really like that. And she's like, okay, sorry, Daddy, I won't do it. Like, whatever. So I'm not worried about you because, again, the relationship piece with you, you're excellent at. And then the reading the room piece, you're really, really great at it as well. It's just remembering that in parenting as well, because there are going to be days where you're exhausted and you're like, this dude just tried me.
You know what? I've recently kind of changed my school of thought. which has been, oh, I'm going to be everything my dad wasn't for me.
Mm-mm.
Which I've recently, just reading and you know, consuming content, I've recently felt like there's some merit there, but it's a flawed way of looking at fatherhood.
Yeah.
Because you have to father your individual child.
Yeah.
So it can't be, they might not need that.
Yep.
You needed that.
Yep.
But they might not need that.
Yep.
So, and I think that's how we perpetuate generational curses. Is that we're trying to take our trauma, we have noble intent.
Yeah.
And we pass it down inadvertently because we're like trying to give that child what we never had instead of staring at the human being in front of you.
You got it.
And I'm like, dang, because I said that my whole life up until, let's say, 3 months ago. It's like, dang, that clicked.
It's you hit it on the head there, Stu, because like, as you know, like I was raised in a household where like I knew I was loved. The however is that like affection, there was no time for affection.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
same, my mom.
There was no time. Like again, I knew I was loved. I felt it. I saw it. Like, but it was like there was no like the hand holding and the hugs, the kisses wasn't a thing.
You had to learn that later. How hard was that?
It's still hard.
I'm interviewing you now.
I'm like,
like I gotta. Oh, I should probably hold her hand.
I should hold her hand.
I should probably hug. You know what I'm saying? Like I have to. It wasn't. I think
I should sit next to her on the couch.
Just kick it.
Yeah.
That didn't really come into play until like later in life, and I think it's because my mom knew she had speed teach.
Yeah.
And it's like, dang, you're not gonna get that. But hopefully the woman that you marry can help bring that out of you.
Yeah.
Because I gotta stack rank what I gotta teach you because I don't have that much time.
Yeah.
And so I'm with you.
Yeah.
Same. Truly.
You hit it on the head, man. But it's like the one piece that you just shared, you know, revolving around parenting, which I think is really, really good, is like, man, you gotta love who's directly in front of you and figure that individual child out. Like my daughter is a ball of love. Yeah. And she is all affection and touch and I'll find her like there's not a day that goes by. We've just been off the past 2 weeks and she's just been with us and at the home. She just will like grab your hand and lock her fingers and I love it and I appreciate it. Yeah. But then there's some time periods where my mind is like the mental war of everything that I'm balancing and trying to figure out. And I'm like, girl, I need a second. I'm like overly stimulated, but I can never say that to this little child. I have to lean into
that impacts the rest of her life. And how she, you know what I'm saying? Ooh, daddy didn't like that. Which could be a good thing because you're teaching her, you're course correcting. Or it could be a bad thing where it's like in that one moment.
Shut the door.
Yeah.
So I'm never going to shut the door. Personally. Like, I just got to be here. I have to be overly stimulated in those moments and make sure she feels like I'm the warm blanket. Right. Which is everything. So, a few more questions for you, bro.
I got time.
I appreciate you, man, for more than you know. But your journey has been filled with transitions from personal loss to career pivots. How do you maintain resilience and adaptability through it all?
Man, and this is a double-edged sword because I've used it as a crutch and I've used it as a fire. My mom dying was the worst day of my life. There will never be a day that bad. So everything else is got to be better than that. Yeah. So I think that is something that, you know, I've used that to let people go, which is not necessarily fair. You know, and I've used that, you know, with career shortcomings, where it's like, okay, you know, shake it off. We got to keep going. And I don't know, maybe it's that, I'm stubborn or hard-headed, but I just can't allow for those things to get me down. Yeah. And one of the practices from my mentor, who was the CMO at Twitter at the time, she's now the CMO of Verizon. Her name is Leslie Berlin. Okay. She taught me this thing where she was like, when I get angry about something, I look at the time and I say, I'm going to have 30 minutes to be pissed off about this. But after that 30 minutes, it's done. I'm putting that to bed. I'm getting it out of my mind and I'm moving forward. And I thought that was so poignant because I think we talked about this last week. What's going on up here at any given time? bouncing off the walls. But I found if I write something down, or I just say my feelings in a voice note and delete it, it's like, that's how I get it out. Because I have to create room for other things. Like, you don't realize how much you take of that with you.
Yeah.
So that's, I mean, and that's tactical, right? In terms of how to teach yourself resilience.
Yeah.
But that's the thing.
Yeah.
The two things that I think people need to figure out is, one, how to be alone, like how to actually sit in a room with yourself and be alone. And then two, that resilience thing. Because, and this is a weird reference, but there's an episode in Sopranos where one of the women that takes care of Tony Soprano's mom says, America's the only country in the world where people expect good things to happen. Across the world, they expect bad days. And we get so disappointed when we have a bad day when 90% of our days is overtly positive. But if you don't travel, you don't get that. It doesn't hit for you. But yeah, I mean, resilience, I think it's a life skill because it's not always going to go your way. You can tell a lot about a person by how they react in that moment.
Man, like, it's funny because I don't think it's a crutch, man. Like what you just shared, because and like maybe I don't know, maybe I don't feel like it's a crutch because I also do something very similar. Like it's easy for me. It's like you're not gonna get me too rattled. Like
no,
I can say my mom was a crackhead, my father's in prison. I'm good. Like my life over here is excellent. What can you do to me? You can't say anything, like, you're not going to hurt my feelings. I've heard it all. I've been called nigger as a kid before. I've seen it all. Like, you're not going to hurt me. So I know that this too shall pass.
That kills them.
Oh, it kills.
When you give them the reaction. Like, I know, I've been in rooms with people that I know don't like me. Yo, what's up, man? How you doing? You good? Good deal. Keep it moving.
That's it.
That's me. You have a problem with me? I absolutely don't have a problem with you. That's how I've lived my entire life.
It costs you nothing to be nice.
Absolutely not.
Like, just as easy as it is for you to be angry, you're choosing to be angry. I can choose to have peace in my life.
Yes.
I choose it every single day.
I lay my head on my pillow and great.
Oh, I sleep
well.
I got
everything I need.
I sleep well at night. My life is excellent.
Yes.
So even if I'm able to, it doesn't matter.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, thank God. But it's through God. It's through relationships. It's through, similar to what you're saying, like learning from older people, both men and women that I think are excellent people. And I'm just being a student of theirs and stealing nuggets and adding that to my toolbox.
I'll add one more thing for you. One other gem that I learned, man, therapy is really a thing.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a person, even if you're not doing formal therapy, that's why I think the mentorship portion of it is really important, because you end up kind of like a therapist on the low. But communication, black man, look in the camera, black man, communication will allow you to set your burdens at the feet of God or at the feet of your spouse and focus on how to work together. If you can't communicate effectively, it's never going to work. It's not going to work at work. It's not going to work at home. It's not going to work with your kids. It's just not going to work. Because, and I say that because I mentioned my mother was sick for a lot of my life. I would be going through things in that time that I wouldn't discuss with her. Because, it's never a good time. Or her sickness was bigger than what I was feeling at the time. And that is unfair. You're not giving that person the choice. And so that got unearthed from therapy. So now I'm overly communicative. Like, I'm gonna give you the parts of the story that you probably don't even need, but I want to paint the full picture so you know what the deal is. And so that's another thing that helps with resilience. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I'm going through it, having that conversation with your partner or whoever that person is for you in your life, man, don't let it bounce around up here. It'll drive you crazy. For real. Because black men, we always thinking. It's always, we doing weird math formulas in our mind about life constantly.
Dude.
Constantly.
Every formula. We're doing geometry. And I'm like, dude.
And women do it too.
Black
women specifically, for sure. But what's going on up here is
Yeah.
It's usually about everybody else.
Yeah.
It ain't even really about you.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, what's my daughter on?
Yeah.
What's my son on? What's my wife on?
Uh-huh.
Making sure that they're good.
Yeah, man. And the communication piece is really, it's a powerful point that you brought up, right? Because I think that like, there are even time periods where, this is me being fully transparent.
Please do.
So,
You always are.
yeah,
When
right. My, hopefully she won't mind me saying this, but it's like every once in a while, once a quarter, I might get a text from India, and it's like, we need to talk. That text feels like it is a knife. Oh man, stomach is doing backflips.
Oh man, I hate that.
Feels like somebody stabbed me in the chest.
I hate that. What
And
I
what did I do?
You're playing the tape. Like what?
I'm doing all the mental gymnastics. And in reality, 90% of the time, she just needs space to like talk to me openly and honestly about like, hey, this is what's on my plate right now, blah, blah, blah. Like, what's on your, and 90% of the time, she just knows that I'm like in a season and she can feel my mind being like at war with itself. Yeah. And she's just like, let me like give him space to like just offload some of this.
Yes. Create the environment.
And we just may sit like this and just have a conversation for an hour.
Yeah.
Or we'll go have dinner and have a conversation for an hour and a half, 2 hours.
And you feel so good after that conversation now. You feel like you can run through a wall. Yeah.
I feel like I can do anything and everything, and this is why I signed up for this, right? To do this with this person.
Correct.
So communication is key. And I think that like that's been a primary leading, I think, just factor of my marriage being successful.
Yeah.
Is like that.
Because we're stubborn. In our minds, we're like, that's why I say it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
In our mind, it's like, oh, well, I don't got to tell her. I done been through worse.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's why I say it could be.
And that's toxic.
It could be good or bad. And I had to learn that, okay, use it for the places that are fruitful.
Yeah.
But you got to set that down for the ego and the pride stuff.
You got it.
Yeah.
You got it, man. My last question for you, bro. So what advice would you give to others that are balancing personal challenges while striving for excellence in their careers and their relationships?
Man, you're not always gonna get the praise you think you deserve. And sometimes that could be debilitating. But focus on doing the thing that you care about and doing it well. And don't be afraid to advocate for yourself. And don't be afraid to take risks. Let me tell you something, man. I think that Black people, and I hate sweeping generalizations, but because we are in love with being good, like getting to whatever good is, we don't take a lot of risks.
Yeah.
And we absolutely should. Like, you have earned the right to take risks. I'm not saying go bet on NFL games or, this stock or whatever. But, if you're working somewhere and you're thinking about building a business, know that all of the tools that you got in those roles previously got you to this point. And you've forgotten more than most people have had before they even started what they wanted to do. So that risk thing, man, and I know for me, just in general, because I felt like I've had no safety net, there are times where I absolutely should have taken more risk than I didn't. Yeah. So I would say that is something, take risk. You're not always going to get that gold star. We're not that generation. There's no participation trophy. Yeah. You're not going to get that pat on the back. Yep. But as long as you're doing something that you feel confident and feel good about, it goes everywhere you need to go. You got everything you need. You are enough to figure this out. That's absolutely, in your times where you're trying to question your ability, you got to look in that mirror. You're going to have to do it. I'm sure you've done it a million times. And remember who the hell you are and what you came from, what you've overcome and what you've done and what you have yet to do. And remember that all those things that happen so you can be who you were destined to be. I strongly believe that. Use that as a way to motivate yourself. None of this was for naught.
Man, Stu, I appreciate that more than you know, just because even with what we're doing right here today on camera, it's like I've sat on this idea for longer than 5 years.
Yeah.
And I just didn't know what it looked like, but I've journaled now for 15 years. I still journal every day. And
I need to get better at that.
it just is, for me, it's like, it's therapeutic.
Yeah.
It gives me space to like
Get these things out of your
head. And like, I may have a note that I may not revisit for 2 years, but like, it's out there, it's there.
Right.
But going back to your point of like, it's in you, right? Like, put a shot up, right?
Yeah,
like,
put a shot up.
You
That's
miss
the perfect way to say it.
every shot that you do not take.
Yeah.
And for me, even what I'm working on now with this, We Rest on Sundays, this is not a goal for me to leave corporate America. That's not my goal, right? Like, I'm happy at my job. I feel like I'm really good at my job. I feel like my company that I work for provides really well for me.
You feel that too.
I feel
Some people say that, but like when we have our discussions, I feel that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I believe you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So for me, but I was being lazy. Like I was being lazy on the creative side of Ben.
Yeah.
That has these ideas and wants to actually help people and live more on my purpose.
Water that, brother.
And I have to water that. And we have to do that, you know, like as people on this earth, where it's like, you know, when you're being lazy.
Oh yeah.
You know when there's more to offer.
Oh yeah.
And you know what you can give. So it's like just living in that and taking more risks is like really, really good advice. But Stu, I appreciate you, man. I love you. I continue to be really, really, you know, just like challenged by how you live your life and lead and show up for your friends and your family. It challenges me as a man. It challenges me as a father. It challenges me as a husband, even though you're just now about to have it's like the way that you are navigating your life and you've navigated through your adversities and your challenges and losing your mom at 12 and still being a good man. Like that matters. It matters so much because we need more Black leaders and Black men like you that are setting the example, that are leading by example, that are doing all the positive things in just this world.
Yeah.
So thank you for being a good friend, a brother. Thank you for always showing up for me and my family and our friends as well. It's it's easy to have Stu around. Even the simple text on the weekend of like, hey man, we're going here. It's like, dude, I appreciate that more than you know. Cause I'm like, let me get a break from these kids.
I was gonna say, you need that time.
Yeah.
I mean, cause then you go into the week feeling, okay, we actually did something this weekend that was, you know, not necessarily kid related. And I would say for the things that you are thinking about doing, lean on the community. Like it's an honor to be here. Like I love doing this. Legit, I could talk all day. So
I appreciate you, bro. Thank you, man. Listen, have a productive work week.
You too.
If you need anything,
I'm gonna rest the rest of today though.
Yeah,
we rest on Sunday. That's gonna happen.
That's it. Thanks, man.
My brother, happy to do it.
I appreciate you, bro.